Hi, my name is Gordy Hogue, and this is Community Connections. Each of us have stories that help us understand each other and help to bring our community closer together. I have been very fortunate to have met many interesting people. People who have had a positive, profound impact on our community and far beyond. People who have had incredible life experiences and fascinating stories. Community Connections is about these people and about their stories. I'm sure you'll enjoy meeting these amazing people as much as I have. Thank you. Please enjoy. Welcome to Community Connections. My name is Gordy Hogue, and today's guest is a very accomplished woman. She has represented Canada in diving events around the world. She's including the Commonwealth Games and Olympic Games. She is a winner and has held 34 national titles as well as winning medals. She was named our Athlete of the Year in 1969 and 1970. She is most importantly an energetic, caring, and social person. After retiring from competitive diving, she has given back. She dove into coaching and judging and promoted diving in our community, in our province, and indeed in our country. She's a mother, a role model for many. She loves life, and she's made a positive difference in many people's lives. Welcome, Bev Boys, to Community Connections.
Thanks, Gordy. Nice to be here.
So can you tell us a little bit about growing up and your family growing up and how you ended up getting into diving?
I was born in 1951. I may as well declare the age. And I lived in Pickering, which was a very small community in Ontario before the nuclear plant and everything else went in there. We had 60 acres, went to a one-room public school, two-room public school with 50 kids. I laugh now when they have 35 in one class. I think, oh my gosh. But I grew up on this wonderful farm, and I recently connected with my brother. We had an Indigenous or First Nations dig site there on our property. That was sort of our pastime, was to go up the back, and we had a little creek, and up this cliff or this little hill, we started digging all the time, and there was all this, arrowheads and all these pots. So there now is a boys, what did my brother tell, Bennett or something, site on the Ontario. So that was a cool, at the time you didn't realize how cool it was. You just felt like you were, you wanted to be in Toronto with the street lights and but we didn't. We tried a hobby farm sort of thing. We had chickens, we had pigs, we had asparagus, lots of asparagus, and we used to take it to the St. Lawrence market all the time. So growing up was pretty good. I didn't know it at the time. I thought I was, underprivileged and didn't have anything. Now we all, want to own those kinds of places, and it's out of our reach. I started diving with a girl across the road. We had a little pool that we went to every day in the summer because there was nothing else to do, and it was boiling hot. It was at a golf course, and we dove a little bit, but it was just stupid. Our coach taught us how to do cannonballs, so it really wasn't diving. It was fun. The girl across the road, her dad took her to Toronto, and I was asked if I wanted to go. Well, I really only wanted to go in the car. Had nothing to do with diving. I just, oh yeah, I'll go, because we never got to go in the car. So I started, and I dove one day a week. I finally said, oh yeah, I'll try this. This looks, if I get to come in the car again, sure, I'll do it. So I did it. And then it turned out that it was sort of a thing for me to do. So we dove in Toronto. We never had a pool that was dedicated in Toronto for any kind of sport. Excuse me. They were all recreation pools, and we dove at 7 o'clock at night. So you never got home till 11. You're in grade, whatever, 5, 6. So I sort of laugh now when they complain, well, can't we get an earlier time? The children have to have dinner. And I go, yeah, I know. Suck it up. And if you want to do it, you'll do it.
What did your family think about you going off with this other family and doing it? Were they sort of pleased they got a chance to go into Toronto, or how were they involved?
Well, you know what? My sister drove me, and my dad used to work way on the other side of Toronto, on the west side, and we were in the east. So we'd drive home, he'd eat dinner, and then we'd get in the car and go in. It was about 40 miles in and 40 out. So we never got home till my sister and my dad drove me. They loved it. And I'll jump forward a little bit. When my dad passed away and we went through his stuff, I found he was the Toronto diving champion.
Wow.
Now, maybe I knew that back then, but when I was very surprised, I think I became very full of me. So I didn't, my parents were just my parents, I guess, as a lot of kids at a certain age. So
That
I
must,
guess he loved it.
yeah, that must have been pretty special being able to spend that amount of time a week with a father and a sister traveling back and forth and the connections that would be made there.
Yes, it was pretty, and the weather, I
Yeah.
mean, we'd drive in and, my poor dad, I think of it now, and well, my sister, the day I turned 16, and in those days you got your license the day you went.
Yeah.
There was no, I don't know where they thought we learned, but all of a sudden you showed up and took your test. I think of it now, I think. But they handed me the keys to the Volkswagen. We had an old red Volkswagen and said, never again, we are not driving you. So I became on the freeway day one driving. Now, to be very honest, I learned to drive when I was 10 because, of course, you got the farm.
Yeah.
And I could drive. My grandfather used to let me drive home from school. He lived by the school. So I was driving at 10 or 11, so I knew how to drive. But anyway, I thought when I think of it now, I think it's, I don't know what everybody else did, how they taught their kids to drive. But anyway, so they loved it. I mean, I think I don't know, they loved it the whole way. And my sister was certainly happy not to have me driving me anymore or going to the pool. My sister is 10 years older than me. Her name is Suzanne. And we named our second child Suzanne. She's a very special, I think when you're 10 years older, when I was 10, she was 20 and she was working. So she was more my mom. So I'm still very close and connected with my sister. Her husband just passed away. So I just spent 2 weeks there with her and it was really fun. Actually, it was sad, but fun. Yeah, so I dove in Toronto at all these different pools. I wrote it down because I couldn't, about 6 or 7 different pools we go to. You think of now, everybody has their perfect diving board and their perfect, our first boards weren't even Duraflex. One was this metal thing that if you ever hit it, you'd split your head open. And the pool was 8 feet deep.
Wow.
3 meters. You were diving up and you were going down. Yeah, luckily we were young. The other kids really hurt themselves in that pool. Yeah, I think my family really liked it and they followed me around the world and they, followed me to Olympics when they could. Another thing I found out, we had no money really. So my dad, they sold land to go to the Olympics. And I remember my mom saying that one day to somebody, we were selling a truck off the farm and she said, oh yeah, we sold 5 acres to go to Munich. And I remember looking at her going, what? Did you never hear of a loan? Couldn't you have borrowed money or what do you mean you sold? I had no idea.
When did you realize that you had this skill, that it wasn't just a venture into Toronto, but all of a sudden that somebody must have identified you and noticed and said, there's something special about you and your ability to dive?
Well, I had success very early. My first competition, I don't know if I won, but I was right up there. And, diving when you had to travel the way we did and no coaches were trained.
Yeah.
They just decided they'd be a diving coach. I mean, a couple of them might have dived. Mine had never dived. He was just a mean, horrible person, really. But, they kind of suck you in and you become successful. I remember I went to Quebec first time and I felt like I'd gone to Europe. I had no idea that I'd even get out. I'm not even sure I knew Quebec was there. I guess I did. We obviously had geography, but so I was successful very early. Like 64, I started diving in 62. In 64, I won the junior. And we only had a junior event, 16 and under. So it could be any age in there. I won that. And then in 65, I made my first international team to England. So I think, I guess obviously I had talent. I mean, there was no talent ID like we have now where you run clinics and measure people and see how high they can jump and fast twitch. But I think if you have the drive, almost in any sport, you can overcome and you can become something. And I was lucky to have a family. I'm sure there wasn't even a bus I could have taken anyway in to go diving. There's still no bus where our family lived on that road anyway. From Pickering, I suppose you could take the GO train. But so I think we knew right away. And it was fun when you grow up on 60 acres and you don't have a whole lot to do. Now to go out and be able to dig in your backyard and find that stuff would be amazing. But in that day, it was like, oh yeah, here's another piece of a pot. Somebody broke a pot. And so it was really to get out of Dodge. A lot of it was I can get off the farm and there's actual concrete in Toronto. You can bounce a ball. And So yeah, we knew early. And then I just, I bought in, and my coach put a trampoline in my yard, and I had a diving board. We only had one diving board in Ontario, and we used to put the diving board. I had it in my backyard over like a dry board, they call it, but my dad just put a pipe, and I just did hurdles into, now they have big foam pits. I had sawdust with a pitchfork beside. I know I sound like the kid that, oh yeah, you walk to school in the snow uphill. Well, yes, we did that too. But so I was lucky that I could just jump all the time. And I ended up very, very strong, and had a really good hurdle, they call it, when you go down the board. And I put that down to the backyard. And when we'd have our provincials in Ontario, they take the diving board out of my yard, put it on a car, drive it to London, Ontario, put it on the 1 meter. We do the event, and then put it on the 3 meter. And so it's come a long way.
Sure has, yeah.
I'll put it that way.
Yeah. You've described a lot of support that your family gave you, driving you and setting up things in the backyard. How has that influenced you as a mother? And as
we've always, my kids dove a little bit, or our kids dove a little bit, but it was too much diving. Yeah. Because I never left diving. I'll say now, like I say, I had a coach that wasn't educated in anything, really just, he was a motivator. He was a con artist, I'd say, a really mean person. So I decided to stay in diving to make sure we could weed out those, or try to at least identify and let them know that it's not going to be acceptable. I survived. Lots of us kind of did, but.
What would the ideal coach be? What would the ideal diving coach? What would their personality and skill set be?
Well, you have to have there's a fine line there, because diving's scary, right? You gotta, I'm too scared to go. Well, guess what? You have to go. Yeah. You want to do this is what you have to do. So you need somebody that can find the balance in there of not abuse, but to find and be patient enough to know that you have the time to let them be a little bit scared, but you have to push them. Now, one thing I have brought out of it, and a lot of coaches in BC for sure will say, when we have trouble getting a diver off the board, we call Bev, right? Because I'll come in and go, look, just do one. You got to go, just go. Don't stand there. Don't wait. Because the longer you stand and think about it, we all get scared of things. The more those kinds of in sport anyway. So the perfect coach would be that. They'd be educated. There's science behind it. There's things you do before you send someone to 10 meter. They don't just go up, and they're not your afternoon entertainment and they hope they make it. I had to dive a 3.5. I could never do it. I would land on my legs until one time they did, they bled. And that, he said, you can get out of the pool when your legs bleed. So, I just landed on them. But, now you have to do exercises with your feet. You have to have fast twitch. A diver can't be slow. A diver, it's like a ballet dancer if they couldn't jump. You're at a big disadvantage. Sure, the diving board pushes you, but you have to finish through your feet. So sorry, go ahead.
So you're describing all of these things you've learned and the experiences. How have they interpreted what you're doing now as a judge, and how do they interpret into the rest of your life? What are the skill sets that come out of that, or the things that you learn that help you understand, connect with people, and be able to judge and coach and support?
Well, I did some of the diving training, the education piece that we have, but I also think I learned through hard knocks. Yeah. And I know now what will make a dive. I watch our kids bounce on the board and they don't point their toes. And I go, you would go a foot higher if you extended off your toes. You just know that. You watch diving, and I just judged all weekend virtually because we can't have them in any pool. And all these kids, and I'd go, I'd give that a 7, but your feet are flat and your knees are a little bit bent. And so you become, as a judge, I became very forgiving almost as a judge, because one of my issues was, of course, a little bit of weight all the time. And I used to think that they just didn't like me, or, what are they doing? Now I judge and I think, okay, if you're bigger, that's the way it is. It's not a huge, what are you doing? But it changes the overall impression of the dive. You look slower, you look So I take that into diving now, and I'm more sensitive to other parts of the dive, or, you still have to give the right score if you got somebody who jumps higher and whatever. So I think I never leave it. And I watch diving all the time. Been watching it all morning because the World Cup, we went to Tokyo. Our kids are in Tokyo in sort of lockdown, but at an international meet to trials for the Olympics. So I watch it all the time. And in our sport, our Stephen coached the soccer. Our girls were real soccer players. And you just keep trying, and you got to go to practice. You have to. I've really turned into a garden entertaining kind of person more than, and I'm not coaching now, but I am at the pool, and I will be telling these divers, our divers, what we've scored and why we scored it. All of us, not me. This is not me speaking. If you want to win this, then you have to follow these guidelines. And 101 is point your toes. I mean, there's nothing worse than a flat-footed diver.
So as you move through your times as a diver and into the transition, how did you ending up in South Surrey White Rock and finding this as a place to raise your family?
Well, in the last year of diving, I'm 77, 76, the Olympics, and I, did okay, whatever. Wasn't the best, but I did it. And then the next year I thought, you know what, I got to get out of this country. I got to get away from the coach because I didn't really want to dive anymore, but I lost a whole bunch of weight. So all of a sudden I went, you're kidding me. Here I am after 16 years. And finally you're thin, like kill me now. I was like, oh, so I said, I realized I could get into university. So I went to Dallas, Texas, to Southern Methodist University. My aunt lived there. I thought I'll cross one border. I don't want to go to Mexico or anything or some other country. So I dove for a year, and that was the ideal coach I had. Brian Robbins coached there. I got into school because I was old, not because I tried to go to school, but I dove and I had the best time. He'd ask me, what do you want to do today? And I'd look at him like, what? Do I get to think? I get to decide? And so it was so easy and it was so fun. So I decided that I should stay in it. I couldn't stay down there and fake school, and I didn't really want to train anymore. I came home and I went to Montreal to work, couldn't stand it. Then I said, okay, I'm going to go to Edmonton. I had a guy I was dating, moved to Edmonton, and because I didn't want anybody to know me. I spent a lot of time because I was quite successful and famous in Toronto. Oh, you can do this. Here, we'll give you this. We'll give you this. Well, it comes back and smacks you when you're 30 years old and you haven't really had a job. So I went to Edmonton and I worked in a fabric store for $3 an hour. And I took clothes design in school. So it was sort of up my alley. And then I worked in a jewelry store because I knew the girl. And then I worked at a restaurant called the Crock and Block. And when I went in there to interview for the job, I used a place in Texas that we used to go party and pretended I worked there. I thought, they'll never phone. What are you going to phone Texas for a restaurant job? I mean, we're there a dime a dozen, those guys. So when he was going through my application, he said, oh, weren't you? And I went, yeah, because he was from Montreal. I said, yes, I am, but forget it. I just want a job, okay? I don't want anything because I was who I was. The was is a real, So I get the job, but it was freezing cold in Edmonton. It was worse than Winnipeg. We lived in Winnipeg for 3 years. That was torture. So then I moved. I thought, well, I got all my stuff here. I'm going to go out to see Terry York and Frank Roth. So I came to White Rock and lived in their house for a while, got a job at, I think that's Odd Phillips was the name of the store in the mall, had fabrics. And I thought, okay, now this is not, certainly I can do not better, but I got to do something that, I go home at the end of the day and challenges me. So I got a job with a company called Mod International, which did mail order all around Canada and with bathing suits. And they also made goggles, Speedo goggles and arena swimming goggles for the world. So I did that for a while. And that was downtown Vancouver. So after I was in White Rock, sorry, I got to jump back here. I lived with Terry and then I got my own place. And then I moved to North Van for this job. And it was downtown. And then they moved to North Van. And I thought, I'm not going to North Vancouver. Now I live downtown. And so I started my own store. I started a bathing suit store, and I had no idea what I was doing. Started in the back of a little store on 4th Avenue, and we just did mail order, and then eventually moved to McDonald and 4th, and opened a store called Bev Boys Sport. And I had a partner, and he invested money. He had way more money. I didn't have any money, so he invested the money in it. And he was a partner. I didn't realize that he had 1% more than me. But anyway, that story plays out not nicely. But anyway, I had the store for 8 years, and I just had a blast. It was so great. I didn't ever really make any money, but I was never broke either. I just was too nice. I was more into the people and the. So I had the store at the start of triathlons. So I was a major triathlon supporter, did the bathing caps, because that's your best advertisement. In the swim, the bike, you're usually going too fast, the run, yeah, but I didn't have any running stuff. So then I met Steve in 85, 84 probably. Started the store. He had to build all the stores. And I was out, did the stores, and then finally, we had a house in West Van and could make some money and get in it ourselves. So we sold the house out by Lighthouse Park and moved to Winnipeg. Frank had this little house for sale that is still the same in above Crescent Beach. And that's how I ended up out here with Terry and, not with Terry and Frank, but they definitely are my best friends and the people that I spend time with. And met Marg Connors, who was Margie Amos as a diver in the grocery store one day with our kids in the buggy. And I said, let's learn to dive at the South Surrey pool. There's no diving out here. We got a pool. Let's do it. So we did it. First times we got 6 o'clock in the morning, Sunday for an hour. Had the old people really didn't like us. I can say old people now because I'm old, but they hated it. But anyway, I reminded them that these children could be out keying your car. Okay, we're doing a good thing here by keeping them busy and healthy, and slowly we moved to get not permanent time because there wasn't enough time at the pool, and we were slow off the gate because swimming was in there. So swimming always, trumps us because of the number of people that they can involve, and they should. It's okay. So that was how the club started, and we kept doing it. The club is still going.
What kind of grounding does Steve provide for you, or connected?
Steve,
yeah.
He's like the complete opposite of me. He's a builder. He's quiet. Yeah. You say opposites attract. We're a perfect example of that. But we both love to entertain, and we love to do the garden. It's kind of all we do now. We have a fantastic garden and a crappy little house, but it's cute in a neighborhood where there's 2-3 houses down the road, selling for 10 million. Our assessment's big, but our house is valued at $13,000. It costs more to take it away than to you can't fix it. So Steve is a good balancer, and I was lucky that I traveled a lot to judge for Olympics. When you go to an Olympics, you go away for at least 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And I was doing those things when the children were young. So he was home. He was the guy that, did the kids when I wasn't home. And so he's just a good balance. He's a very kind, athletic, exercise, always bugging me to walk and do things and look after. And he coached soccer. Was never the head coach because he didn't want to be in charge of our girls, because he usually was with that team. So yeah.
Tell me about the pin on your shirt.
My Order of Canada pin. Yes, that's a very strange. I had to look it up, actually. I had to look it up what it meant, what it was, when my brother-in-law, I think he came to an awards banquet in Sport BC. And he, after he phoned me, he said, do you know how many awards you've won? And I went, no, not really. I mean, obviously you kind of do, but no, I don't know how many awards I've won. So he wrote it all down, and he said, no, I think, you should be put up for. So he did all the legwork, and he said it can take 3 to 5 years. my thoughts on this are that I think it was at a time where they were also pointing out how many people get the Order of Canada from Quebec and Ontario, and not many from across Canada. So there was a push to even the playing field and to understand that there's just as many great people out west, but east is bigger, and we always battle that little thing. So anyway, I got the call and I sort of laughed. I went, okay. So I called him. Oh my God, I'm going to get the award. So it was a very strange, as you're sitting in the room there, to go up, and all these people, he invented whatever, I'll say insulin, but it wasn't insulin, all these things these amazing people have done. And then came up Dollarama, and I went, what? Well, what did he do? And then of course you go, oh yeah, well they give their money away. So they're philanthropists or whatever. So you're not there just because it's a really cool cross section of survivors. There was a woman who lived on the street who turned it around, and the lady beside me nudged me and said, as we were waiting, what are we doing here? I said, I don't know. This is embarrassing. What are they going to say about us after? But it was a really cool thing to go. The whole family came, and we really had fun in Ottawa, and yeah, it was great. So it's a big honor. It's I don't know that I don't say it's hard to live up to, but I'm losing steam on trying to be great at anything else. I'm just trying to maintain at this point, do the garden, make a list, and try to get through some of it each day. And, if you do, like my daughter says, Mom, if you say you're going to have coffee and you have it, that's a win. Write that down. That's a good, because I had a bit of a stumble for a while where I was like, oh, I'm a loser. What am I going to do now? And when you go to therapy, they tell you, as a high performance athlete, you will never be happy really with what you're doing, because you always had to strive. When people say, oh, well, you made the Olympic, I said, no, you think you train 6 days a week to make the team? Maybe somebody does. Maybe some do, but I didn't. And a lot of high performance. So you have to be careful how you gauge. And because I stayed in the sport, maybe if I'd have gone away, you would have said, okay, diving's done. I think it'll never be done for me. I'll take to my grave that I didn't win a medal. I was fourth by 2/100ths of a point. And it's like, so anyway.
But you've got a wonderful sense of presence, a sense of connectedness with people, and you're a joy to be around. That's got to be worth a gold medal.
No, it is. And I realize that. And I have a great community, and I've worked on having a community where we live here and up the hill from Crescent Beach. We're on the bluff. I don't have a view house, but we're close. And you work at that, and people go, this is the best place to live. I meet anyone moving in with flowers and a jar of jam, and I go, okay, here's how it goes. Okay. You got to come out on the street. You're going to talk to people, you're going to, don't live in isolation. Don't even unload the truck if you're going to do that, especially on my road, right? I mean, they could unload the truck. I don't own it, but I try to come in and right away be a friend. And because if we didn't have that when I grew up, we would have had nothing. Because you had, 60 acres. The next person had 100 acres. You were miles between people, and miles. But so I learned that, and we are very fortunate. And we're all thinking of selling because the market's so good. And where would we go? We'll have to go to the island. And I'm not afraid of a new community. I actually feel afraid of leaving this community. They need a leader, behind. And the new people come in their big houses, and they aren't as forthcoming. I don't find as coming out. They're more into having their yard be clean and perfect, and leaf blowing all day, and power washing their road, their driveway every 3 days. So we're kind of the country left in the paradise here. $10 million houses down the road. I just laugh. But
so your neighbors are a bit like teammates, are they?
Yes, especially, well, next door, we were over there last night talking about what they're going to do and how they're going to do it. And it's some people have left, and we're being advised to leave just because of financial, but I don't know where we'll go. I just looked at a house, just came up on my phone, but but we want land. If we're gonna go, I got to get Steve a tractor next time so he can try his little farm. And
So what you have so many incredible experiences through the course of your life, met so many wonderful people, been acknowledged for your great accomplishments. What messages would you leave for anybody coming into diving, but more importantly, anybody coming in to try to have a life that they enjoy, that they engage, and that they contribute? What messages might you leave for those people?
well, for sport, I think it doesn't happen overnight. I mean, in my day, it was a little easier because we weren't so many. And when I look at my pictures and my video from in the day, yeah, we weren't that great compared to now, but we did not have the same opportunities of, you know, the dry land and all that kind of stuff. So just push through, keep going. Don't, I'm not a good example of being upset that I went to, 3 Olympics and judged 4 and I'm still mad I didn't get a medal. I'm not proud of that feeling, but that's the way it is. I think I still strive. Neighbors, for me, your community will save you over and over. If you're a lousy neighbor, your life, I think, will go that way. Like, you really need people, especially now. We're all kind of scared. It's between COVID and everything else. And, we're lucky we still go. We went to our neighbors when COVID first started, and he put wine glasses, he taped them to the end of golf clubs, and he has a fire pit. So we could go there, have our wine, we toasted each other, and we thought it'd be over in a month or so. This was a year and a half ago now. And we just walked through the gate. I don't like people to set up. As you know, I'll miss a meeting or I won't show up. Like, I like, just come in, knock on the door. What are you doing? Oh, we're busy right now. Okay, great. Do you want to go for a walk? That's the kind of community I need. I don't like the downtown, and people will go. My friend had lived out here and was building a big house, and she went and moved over by the school, and the guy next door shot her cats because they walked on the fence. I'm like, I don't know what I'd do if I ever had a neighbor like that. I've been lucky. Or you work it. And I have friends, I just heard from a friend that lived in our house in 1965. And I found her. It's unfortunate. She's a Trumper. And and she's not going to get her shot and all that. And I went, okay, no, I don't want to talk to you anymore. You're off the list. But for the most part, I have friends all over the world. And I think, sorry.
You think that with all the successes you've had, and you've talked about failures that you had or things you didn't accomplish, do you think we learn as much from the things that we don't succeed in as we do the things we do succeed? Have you had a balance in that, or is that?
I mean, I think you can, but you can't be a pouty little thing. And I tend to I don't like to lose or to, not necessarily be first in whatever. And I don't need to. We do many, many potlucks. You'll phone somebody, what are you eating tonight? I'll phone them at 4:30. I don't plan on Monday to have people on the weekend. I'll forget by the time the weekend comes. So, what was the question?
Just the issue of learning from success and
yes,
the balance that comes from that.
I think the saddest thing is learning from raising your children. That's a hard one because you kind of learn it a bit late, some of that stuff. Now, my daughter, Lauren, has just had a little boy. So, of course, it's all different. They have so much more information than we had, or maybe we didn't research it. And then Susie, we have our second child, Suzanne, is up at Whistler. She's a vet tech. There's things I would have done different. Would I have traveled so much? I don't know. I mean, they're fine. They're great. But you hear now, how sad they were. Oh, you were? Like, I thought you were just, so you do learn. Sometimes you can't really fix it. You can only, adjust yourself slightly to be, it's not kinder. I don't know. When I was a diver, I thought I wasn't very nice, but I think that's because my coach I was so miserable. Everybody felt sorry for me. It was just awful. So I don't know. They said, you were fine. We felt sorry for you. You weren't mean to us. You were being mean. Somebody was being mean to you. But I came through that and I've stuck around. And so I think you do learn. Of course you do. But some things you can't change. You just got to let go.
Absolutely.
And I'm in therapy to let go. I love therapy. It's the best. I just wish I could afford it.
Well, it's been a delight having you on Community Connections. And if you're moving in next door to me, or I'm moving in next door to you, I look forward to one of those jars of jam that you deliver. I take a bottle of wine to each of our neighbors who come in. That along the way.
Yeah. Well, it's important. You got to open that because not a lot of people are comfortable just going. I realize I was raised that way.
Yeah,
To have your neighbors come over. Our neighbors across the road when I grew up in Pickering lived in our chicken coop while we built their house.
Yeah.
I mean, we took the chickens out, obviously, but it was a chicken coop. So I am that. Susie has all these friends at Whistler that come from Australia. Well, they're like, we called them the Lost Boys. They come every Christmas. I give them bags of socks, like but they come down all the time. So our house is open. COVID has kind of shut us down a bit, but our house is always open to having people come and helping us.
That's a wonderful message and a wonderful contribution that you've made to your family and to our community. Thank you so much, Bev. It's been a delight talking with you on Community Connections. Thank you for joining us today on Community Connections. Please tune in to our next show as more amazing people share their wonderful stories. If you haven't already, please click on the red subscribe button below, right down there, and view our updates. Feel free to leave any thoughts or comments that you may have. We're always trying to do a better job of connecting this wonderful community. Thanks again for joining, and until next time, keep connecting. Thank you.